Oh, say, can you see by the dawn? Hey, 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 hey. This ain't no game. Swing the remix gone. Hey, 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 hey.
Good morning, podcast listeners. This morning we are sitting in with Connecticut Representative Roger Sherman, a Federalist.
Thank you for having me this morning.
We are also joined by the Virginia Representative George Mason, the Anti-Federalist.
Great to be here. Thanks, Morgan.
Let's dive right into it. Recently has been a topic of discussion surrounding the possibility of the federal government regulating curriculum throughout each state. In your opinion...
That's absolutely absurd. Why in the world would we attempt to regulate one of the few things that the states have the power to control? Why fix something that isn't broken?
Just because it isn't broken doesn't mean that it couldn't be better. If the federal government were to step in and blanket a curriculum for each state to follow, we can ensure that every student receives the same level of education.
Okay. Great points on both sides. Recently, the Department of Education reached a resolution agreement with the district in Chicago to regulate the sex education taught in schools after conducting a recent sexual misconduct investigation. Do you think that the federal government had the right to step in and take control of the situation for the protection of the students?
Well, as a Federalist, I believe in a strong federal government and their power to regulate education over the states. Therefore, I think that there should be a unity in curriculum over all the states so that all students can learn the same thing. It is the job of the federal government to protect the rights of people, especially students. Therefore, when rights are being abused by the state government, the federal government needs to step in.
If that is the case, then who is to say rights are being abused or not? The federal government is given so much power they can decide whether they need to step in or not. There is no way to regulate their decision. Now that's what I call an abuse of power.
No need to yell, but we appreciate the passion. I think we should take this time to cool down a little. When we come back from commercial, we will be learning even more about these hot topics.
You hear that? That's Little Bites, specifically chocolate chip.
Yum.
But that's not all we offer. We also have fudge brownie, party cake, banana, blueberry, crumb cakes, mini chocolate chip cookie, snickerdoodle, and strawberry yogurt. We use real ingredients, 0 grams of trans fat per serving, containing no high fructose corn syrup. Great for a delicious snack any time of day. They be given the same classes and opportunities to reach our desired level of education?
For you listeners that may be a little confused here, the Common Core State Standards Initiative is an educational initiative from 2010 that details what K-12 students throughout the United States should know in English language arts and mathematics at the conclusion of each school grade.
I'm not oblivious to the fact that Common Core exists, but students need to learn their individual state's history in order to understand the culture within the state they live. If they do not understand the history of where they live, they will never fully understand the importance of specific landmarks around them.
Equality is something very desired by our states these days, and I believe students should have equal opportunities in the curriculum provided to them. If the federal government is given the power to regulate education and create a blanket curriculum, this issue of discriminancy between states will be squashed. All students will learn the same things, get the same knowledge, and get the same opportunities to move up in their educational path to success.
Even though you might not be getting the same equality across the country, when applying to college and jobs, not every institution looks at the same requirements and weighs them the same. same. By having each state teach the same thing, this has no benefit for future students when applying to college.
Gentlemen, settle down now. If we're going to be discussing the topic of student equality, shouldn't we consider the students who move across state lines during the years of education?
An issue that commonly does occur with states having different educational systems is that when students move across states during elementary, middle, or high school, they may have to retake courses at their new school or take more classes. By making all states have the same course path and curriculum, students can move between states with ease and pick up right where they left off.
You're going to have to take different courses anyway because of the certain requirements each school has to graduate that you may not qualify for. Most credits will transfer over, and even if they do not, you are guaranteed an A because of how you already took the class. If anything, this is boosting GPAs and helping to reteach subjects that have been lost along the way.
Mr. Mason, are you really trying to deter our citizens from freely moving across states? Picture this. You move states your senior year, and all of a sudden, in your new school, you don't have all the credits required to graduate because the system is different now? Is that really fair to our citizens?
If you want to talk about things being fair, by having the same curriculum throughout the country, you're going to have to pay to change all of the textbooks, which can cost millions of dollars that we frankly don't have. Never mind having to change the curriculum and reteach all of the teachers to ensure that everybody is learning the same thing. And being the smart man you are, you should realize that it is unconstitutional to not pay these teachers for having to relearn everything. So where are you going to get all this money to not only pay for the textbooks, but for the teachers too?
There's a load of funding going towards education in the U.S., and it is not being used effectively. The federal budget provides roughly $69.4 billion for the Department of Education yearly, and the state and local governments spend $594 billion. There's an immense amount of money being funded towards education, and a small amount of it can go towards textbooks and teachers who already know the curriculum. We just need to make sure it is the same between them all.
Listen! The state of education and curriculum that we have now is already in place and working, so why beat a dead horse?
I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, I'm trying to improve on the mistakes that are in place.
You don't even have the power in the Constitution to regulate education, so why are you trying to control this? Education is not even mentioned in the Constitution, and technically, according to the 10th Amendment, if something is not directly referred to the Constitution, the states have the right to handle the issues ourselves.
No need to yell. Our listeners can hear you perfectly fine. Let's take it down a notch.
All right, you don't even support the Constitution, you anti-federalist, and now you're trying to quote it and use it as your argument? Seems a little hypocritical. If we were going off this logic, then according to the Elastic Clause in Article 1, Section 8, says the government shall have the power to do whatever they think is necessary and proper for this country, and I believe this blanket curriculum is necessary and proper.
Hope to have you listening next week when we sit down with the Kates to discuss climate change. Shout out to our main sponsor, TikTok, for all the support towards this podcast. Follow our TikTok account at Politics Podcast to see George Mason and Roger Sherman hit the whoa.
Whoa.